What's going on, everybody? The original Mako back with some more Gunfire Reborn content, and today a Gunfire Reborn update. Not the major update, unfortunately, but there are a lot, and I mean a lot, of balance changes. So I'm not going to waste any time. If you enjoy the content, be sure to like, comment, subscribe. Plenty more Gunfire content coming soon. Major update coming hopefully soon, but a lot of stuff to get into here, so we're just going to go ahead and get into it. Also, check the links in the description if you want to catch any streams. Playing a lot of Gunfire, playing a lot of Risk of Rain, so you're going to want to check that out as well. That being said, the updates. Adjustments for Bird and Bear. A lot of the Ascensions changed. And then some weapon balance changes and scroll balance changes as well. So, first things first. They adjusted some of the Ascensions, added a new daily challenge theme. I could care less about that. I couldn't care less. Optimize the Wind God and some scrolls. Still looking forward to feedback and suggestions. Main focus is to develop new content as usual. Next major update, which includes new hero, new boss, new weapons, and more, will be released this summer. Please stay tuned. I don't know what that means. This summer is not a timetable, but give us, maybe this is a little bit of a teaser for the next random boss. Is this Purple Sword? I mean, it's in the final area, which is where we're all assuming the next boss is going to be, so I don't know. Could be interesting. I don't know why all the enemies are dead, though, if it's an enemy itself, but either way. Let's just get into it. We're going to start with the, oh, thank you, Windows. We're going to start with the adjusted ascensions of the bird. So, first things first, the elemental power is now called All or Nothing. So the original is the leap damage is converted to elemental damage, and you have a 50% chance to do the elemental effect. Now, it consumes all of your armor when you hit an enemy with your leap. For every armor consumed, increase leap damage by 0.8%. So you have to lose all your armor when you leap, which is really interesting. I kind of liked the elemental version better. But you do get a good chunk of damage, and if you pair this with something like Nova Release and you have a lot of armor, using this could be just a one-hit absolute unit of an attack. Like, I'm genuinely tempted to try to see if I get like Nova Release Tier 3 and then some of the Ascensions that increase leap damage and see how much damage I could actually do with this, because it seems like it could be a little bit silly. But Elemental Power changed to All or Nothing, a complete change of the Ascension. Next up, Last Stand. After the armor breaks, increase weapon damage and skill damage. It used to be 20, 35, and 50. Now it's 30, 60, and 100. So a pretty solid increase in weapon damage and skill damage. So that's kind of a huge buff there, which is weird to me that they're buffing the bird, but either way. They're buffing Nova Release for some reason. Level 1 and 2 Ascensions now also cast the Nova that damages surrounding enemies when the armor is broken. And the damage caused is equal to 20, 35, or 50 times the max armor, depending on what tier. So, the best single Ascension in the game has been buffed. Okay. Not going to complain, but that just seems a little crazy. Death Mark. The original was leave a death mark for 4, 5, 6 seconds after each enemy hit with a cleave. Enemies with the death mark take plus 20% damage, movement speed plus 20% for 6 seconds after you kill an enemy with the death mark. The new one is leave a death mark on each enemy you hit with cleave for 4, 5, 6. That's the same. Enemies with the mark receive additional 20, 40, 60. That's more damage from you. The damage bonus now will also apply to the cleave that leaves the mark. So the very first cleave that causes the death mark is increased. And then movement speed 20, 25, 30, which is the exact same, and the time is still the same. So increased damage, and it now applies to the first cleave that actually leaves the death mark. Armor enhancement. Original was max armor plus 30, 60, 100, and movement speed plus 10, 20, 30 for 6 seconds after a leap. And the level 3 Ascension has 25% chance to be invincible for half a second when attacked. The new one, when leaping, you gain max armor plus 30, 60, and 100, same, but this is when leaping, okay? So when leaping, not after the leap, but when leaping, and same movement speed for the same amount of time, but the time is going to start sooner because it starts when you leap. And the level 3 Ascension has changed, so when you're injured during this period, there's a 25% chance to become invulnerable for half a second. So it's a little bit different because you have to take damage for this to proc, Up here, you did not have to take damage before this would proc. So a little bit of a nerf, but still overall, I mean, the bird is even more survivable than it was before, and has a little bit more damage potential with the leap, which is, once again, really interesting. I'm excited to see how crazy that leap can actually get. Next up, we have the bear, or the dog, I guess, and a lot of stuff for him too. So the original Ascension Last Shot has now been changed to Ember Eruption. Original was weapon damage plus 50, 75, 150 for the last shot in the mag. And the new one is when the remaining ammo in the mag is not more than 30%, 40%, 50%, or if it's not more than 1, you increase the weapon damage by 40, 80, and 120. So the weapon damage is less, but it actually is useful for weapons that aren't the Prism, Tiger Cannon, Glimmering, stuff like that. So it's actually useful for pretty much every single weapon, which means this is a pretty significant buff, even though you're losing a little bit of damage on like the Tiger Cannon or Prism that you would normally get. Next, Unleash Potential. The original is while dual wielding, first 5, 7, and 9 shots deal 100, 150, 200% damage. The new is during dual wielding, gain plus 3% weapon damage and plus 1% lucky shot chance for every half a second with continuous firing, up to 20 times. So you can get a max of 60% weapon damage and 20% lucky shot. Okay. And then you will lose 15% damage bonus and 5% lucky shot chance for every half a second when not firing. So if you've got some ammo scrolls, ways to make sure that you're not going to run out of ammo, you can continuously fire and have just an additional 60% weapon damage and 20% lucky shot chance for the majority of your dual wield. If you have like the every 20 ammo consumed, your dual wield timer increases, then you could just have that up as long as your dual wield's up. So a lot of good things here. A little bit more min-maxing you have to do, like a little bit more paying attention to make sure you're continuously firing, making sure you're not running out of ammo. If you do have ammo issues, then obviously you don't want to be continuously firing. So just a little bit more management you have to do as a player. Grenade Master. Original is grenade capacity 246, and then 30 an increased chance of not consuming grenades. The new one is explosive grenade base damage increased up to 200%, and there's the same amount of chance of not consuming a grenade. I like that a lot better. Increasing the damage of the grenades makes this a much more viable option than just increasing the capacity of grenades. So that's a buff to me. I don't know if that makes it like really good. It doesn't make it really good, but I don't know if that makes it like viable to potentially do a grenade run with the other increased explosive damage, maybe. But yeah, grenade capacity plus 246 has been changed to damage increase, which I think is nice. Mad Bomber, the original is explosive damage increased, and you gain immunity to explosive damage. The new one is explosive damage is increased, a little bit less to start, but it ends up the same. But you also get an increased 5%, 7%, or 9% explosion damage on your next shot for each enemy you hit with explosive weapons or explosive grenades. Also important because grenade builds could become a potential possibility with this change specifically right here. But so you could potentially do like if you've got tier 3, you've got 60% as your base increased explosive damage, which is the same as it was. But you now also could, if you hit like 4 enemies with your explosion, you also get an additional 36% explosive damage on the next shot. But then the level 3 Ascension is a little bit nerfed. So for each enemy hit by explosion, plus 9% chance of dealing double damage. So most of the time, it used to be 50% chance on just every shot of dealing double. So most of the time, you're going to have less than 50%. You'd have to hit 6 enemies to get more than 50% chance to double your damage. So that's not going to happen super often. But I think the overall trade-off of just increasing the explosive damage is overall a little bit better. So I think I like that change, but the level 3 change is a little bit annoying. 5. Adrenal Rush will now additionally cover a little bit more health during the status. Precise Explosion, original explosive damage 50, 75, 100. If grenades and explosive weapons deal damage to 1, 1, or less than 3 enemies, Oh no, if explosive weapons deal damage to that amount of enemies or less. New is a little bit less explosive damage increase. If grenades or explosive weapons deal damage to one or less than 3 enemies, the damage bonus is now multiplicative. So that would mean, I'm trying to make sure I read this right. If grenades or explosive weapons deal damage to one less than 3. Okay, so you can stack the damage on the same enemy. I got you. So if you're hitting the same enemy over and over again, this damage is going to stack. Which means boss DPSing is where this is actually really important. So you lose a little bit of damage, base damage, but you can get more damage if you're hitting an enemy multiple times. Survival Instinct, while dual wielding, max HP increased was the original, and the level 3 Ascension was a 50% chance of recovering HP equivalent to damage taken. The new one is plus 20, 40, and 60 max HP. This is just base. You don't have to be dual wielding, you just get that much HP. And then during the dual wielding, your max HP bonus is doubled. So while dual wielding, these numbers get doubled. So it's still a little bit less than this. But you also get a base just HP increase. And then level 3 Ascension, there's a 50% chance of recovering HP equivalent to damage taken when injured. So just like earlier, you have to get injured for this to occur. Although this wouldn't really matter if you didn't take damage anyway. So this only applies when you are injured. So those are all the changes to the 2 heroes that they adjusted. A lot of Ascension changes. I find it interesting they only adjusted the... Well, I guess they just adjusted the tiger. But they didn't touch the cat at all, which was interesting to me. They did a lot of changes to these 2, but not a single thing to the cat. So, I don't know. That's an interesting thing. But now onto the weapon balancing changes. First off, the Thunderstorm. It's now fully automatic. Pog. Sick. Optimized animation, cool. Increased the explosion range of the lightning ball. Tripled it when it hits the enemy directly, but tripled it. That's a big increase. Increased the speed of the lightning ball, which is a huge. I don't know how much this 16 to 20 is going to affect it, but it did travel really slow. So having that increased is nice. And the explosion range and damage caused are now affected by the dog's ascensions. And explosion range caused by the lightning ball is increased. And then the lightning ball can no longer remove elite monsters' shields. So a little bit of a nerf there, but overall a pretty solid change. I'll be interested to see how it feels. The next one is probably the biggest buff of the whole thing. The pupil. Optimized animation, cool. Increased rate of fire by 100. That seems like a pretty big difference. Magazine capacity up 4. Charge time down to half a second. 50% extra damage when shooting after fully charged, which is easier to do since the charge time is now lower. Increased base accuracy. Increased accuracy during rapid fire. Decreased base damage a little bit. But with all of these changes, I think that decreased base damage just kind of gets washed away a little bit. I'll have to see how low how little it's hitting for, but all of these other buffs seem really good. So I don't know, it'll be interesting to see exactly how fast it shoots. I'd have to do some don't know how much quick math I could do to see if this is a DPS increase or not, but I'm sure with the rate of fire up 100, the charge time down, 50% extra damage when shooting after fully charged, which would make this so if you shoot fully charged, and then your next shot is going to do base damage of 102. Oh, it'll do exactly the base damage of... So every other shot does 102 anyway. So this is definitely a DPS increase and a pretty big one. So pupil, pog, pupil, PP. Okay, don't quote me on that. Aura of Venom. Change the weapon crosshair. Okay. Optimized animation. All right. Increase the width of projectiles, so you're going to hit a little bit more. Increase base damage, so you're going to hit a little bit harder. And increase mag capacity, which is actually important because of the right click, obviously. The more in the mag, the more damage you do, and if you have an increased base damage anyway, this is definitely a big DPS increase. So cool. Or a Venom, I'll be excited to try it a little bit more. Next up, Double Cow. Decreased the spiral radius, so you're going to hit things a little bit easier. And optimize the recenter speed of the crosshair when zooming in. No big deals there. Scorching Rounds might be the one I'm the most excited for. So I already like Scorching Rounds, but it's not like super, super good. There's a lot of weapons that are just better. It's very average. But now, the explosion range and damage are now affected by Albi. Double Scorching Rounds explosive build coming soon. Okay. Increase the mag capacity from 4 to 6. Pog. Love that. Projectile travels a little bit faster, and it does more damage when you hit somebody in the head. Or in the crit spot. It's not always the head, I guess. That's great. We love this. This is a huge buff for the Scorching Rounds. I'm a big Scorching Rounds fan, so you better believe there's going to be a double dual-wielding dog explosive rounds, Scorching Rounds explosive build soon. Coming soon. Argus, just optimized animation, and then the start of hour increased reload speed by a pretty significant margin. This was much needed. I have to see how it feels. I probably still don't like the way it reloads, but it is what it is. Next up, we have some scroll balancing. Like I said, this was a huge balancing update, so a lot of scrolls too. Look at this. A lot of scrolls got some changes. Balancing changes. Ostrich Writer. Original was 60% movement speed, and you can't dash. Now you get plus 50% movement speed, so a little bit less, but you get just a huge dash cooldown. So you keep your dash, and it has just a wildly quick cooldown. So Ostrich Writer is now probably one of the, or no, sorry. Let me just, okay. You get a little less movement speed. I read it wrong the first time. And the dash cooldown is increased. So you're dashing a little bit slower. But you still get to keep the dash. And you get the increased movement speed. A decent amount of increased movement speed. So, still a trade-off, but not as big of a trade-off as it was, I don't think. I mean, being able to dash at least once, every once in a while, is better than not being able to dash at all. No retreat, original, plus 50% weapon damage when your secondary skill count is 0. It's now plus 50% weapon damage for at least 12 seconds when the secondary skill count gets to 0. So if this used to be, as soon as your secondary skill count is 0, you get the damage bonus. And then as soon as you have something in your secondary skill, as soon as you have a charge of your secondary skill, it is over. But now you could get to 0 and then pick something up to give you a secondary skill charge, but you have this buff for at least 12 seconds, which is good. I don't know if like the 12 seconds has to run out before you can reset it, or if you can reset it during the 12 seconds. I don't know. I haven't had a chance to test that out yet. I would guess you could reset it, but I don't know. Safety measures. Used to be after dashing, you could recover 30% of your health lost in the last second. Now, dashing after being injured will recover 50% of your total damage taken within that 1 second. So it works really well with dash synergies. And note, it says you can repeatedly dash multiple times to receive healing within 1 second. So if you dash multiple times within a second, you're going to get increased healing. So Pog. Evil Devouring Sword. Original is plus 10% damage for each cursed scroll, and now for every cursed scroll you own, gain 15% damage and 20% skill damage. I like this. Evil Devouring Sword never seemed like a reason enough for me to take a cursed scroll, but now with this big of an increase, maybe could be something that has potential. Hidden Treasure. Original was destroying breakable objects may bring you coins, and now breakable objects will drop copper. They will drop coins, but you have a lower chance of finding buns and soul essence when destroyed. Probably a good trade-off. I mean, it already has a low chance of dropping buns, so a lower chance is kind of annoying. But soul essence, I could give a fuck about soul essence. It doesn't do anything after you've maxed out your account, so that means nothing to me. So probably a really good scroll for me now, and it used to be one that I would take, but it was kind of pointless. Generosity used to be, after picking up a bun, all nearby teammates within 15 meters receive 33% of the healing. Now, it's useful if you're not in multiplayer, so Pog, it does something for me. It increases the amount of health from buns by 50%. And when picking up or getting buns, all teammates receive 25% of the healing bonus. They don't have to be within a certain range, and since it heals for more anyway, it's actually going to be doing a little bit more healing than it used to in the first place. This is just a huge buff all around. Sorry, I have a bad habit. And it's useful in non-multiplayer situations as well. Coins of Life. Original is you won't die when taking lethal damage, and it costs 100% of your copper to be immune for the next 3 seconds, and the scroll is destroyed once it's triggered. Now, a little bit more of a decision you have to make, because it consumes all of your copper when you pick it up, but it'll protect you from lethal damage once, and it'll be destroyed afterwards. So it's an extra life, but it costs all your copper up front instead of later, which means it's a much tougher choice of if you want to take it or not, because the copper could be a little bit more important. You might be getting ready to get some upgrades. You might have a peddler in the stage, whatever. So interesting. It's a little bit more of a decision you have to make. Next up, extra surprise. Killing enemies is a chance to drop supplies for secondary skills. The new one is killing an enemy grants extra coins. Huge. And an extra chance to receive supply for secondary skill. So it's just a buff to what it does, which is, once again, another good thing. I think this was a very underwhelming scroll before. Brutal Gloves just optimized the description. Instead of it saying plus 35% weapon/skill damage on normal hit, it now says when not hitting weaknesses, so you know that's just, it does the extra damage when you're not hitting crits. And then next up, Shrine of Recovery has gone from legendary to rare. Good change. Shrine of Recovery was not a legendary scroll. They also changed some of the curse scrolls. So Broken Bullet used to be minus 50% crit damage. Now it's minus 20% damage to shield and armor. This is almost certainly I guess, I don't know how to describe it. It's a nerf to this. It's better for you if you get this, in my opinion. It's better for the player if they get this with the new version as opposed to the old version. That's my opinion. Next up, Cat Eye Sight used to be minus 50% weapon accuracy. Now you lose a little bit of crit damage. This one, the new one's probably worse. Oops. The new one's probably worse for you. Because weapon accuracy, there are some weapons that it just doesn't even make a difference, weapon accuracy, so. Yeah, just not a huge difference there, though. And then Elemental Curse. The original was you cannot inflict elemental effect anymore. And the new is you exponentially decrease the chance of inflicting elemental effect by weapons. So it's not impossible, it's just a lot less likely. So once again, better for you as the player if you get this than it used to be. Some new level things. Added a new trap in the vault. Optimized guard in the seal level in the desert. Optimized a guard to the seal level, sorry. Adjusted the difficulties of trap vaults. Added trap alert in the daily challenge theme. I could care less. Optimized a route in the desert and the Duo Fjord. And spawn locations of vaults and peddlers. And fixed environmental issue in the guard the sea seal level. And then adjusted locations of some fire traps and shock traps. So nothing crazy there, just mostly optimizations and adjustments. Monsters. The Wind God has been balanced a little bit. Thank God for that. Players can now escape the little vortex on the ground by moving. However, the movement speed would be significantly slowed down, but you can still flee it by dashing, as usual. But this means that, I guess, Ostrich Writer has kind of changed anyway, but you can get out of those just by moving now. You don't have to dash to get out of them. The tornadoes summoned. The speed at which they move is slower on Nightmare mode. It used to be 7 seconds, it's now 6.5 seconds, 6.5 meters per second. But it's also increased a little bit on normal mode. So they made it a lot more narrow of a difference between each different stage. And then the damage has been reduced as well for the tornado. So damage reduced and it moves a little bit slower. So that's nice. Reduced damage taken by the dive attack by 10%. So just a lot of nerfs to the Wind God, which is needed. It probably still needs a little bit more, but I haven't had a chance to see the new one yet. And then the final boss balancing changes. Catfish warriors in the area would be removed when entering the final phase. So that means you're not going to, watch the final phase start, and then all of a sudden there's a catfish warrior right in your face from the last area. Adjusted the skill frequency when the health is below 50%, and adjusted boss difficulty in lower difficulty runs. I'm assuming they lowered the skill frequency. I don't know. We'll see. I'd have to double check. Adjusted the AI behavior. The skills cast during the final phase are now more periodic. Don't happen as often. Adjusted the special effect of enhanced monsters with lightning attribute. So the skill frequency of enhanced monsters is reduced. So they will not summon those lightning things as much. And the time it takes for them to cast their skill for the first time is now longer, so they won't immediately just summon the lightning things at your feet. So a lot of nerfs to some enemies, which is nice. Everything else is nothing's really super big deal. If you had any bugs that have been occurring, I want to see if they fixed it. Just take a look right here and see if there are any. But the daily challenge, once again, I could not care less. But everything else, a lot of buffs. I'm going to have to mess around with these. I'm going to be honest, the Thunderstorm, Pupil, potentially Aura Venom, and Scorching Rounds might be grounds enough for another weapon tier list video. We'll have to see after I mess around with these new weapons a little bit and see exactly how they do. But a lot of new changes, a lot of balancing stuff. Once again, the new update coming this summer. I still don't know exactly what that means, but we'll figure it out together. That being said, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know what you guys think about the changes. I don't know. I think I'm overall happy with these balance changes. I just think it's interesting that they didn't touch the cat at all. That's the most interesting thing about this. And bandit retainers. But that being said, thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate the support recently. Like I said, check the links in the description if you want to see me do some runs live on Twitch. And then subscribe for more content, as always. But thank you guys. Appreciate the support. I love each and every one of your faces. And I will catch you guys in the next video.